Our next guest on the good side is an incredible human being. He's a Guinness World Record holder. He has completed many ultra marathons, which are 100-mile races, and he is just an insanely inspiring person that you're going to love. And remind you again, this is an interactive show, so that means that when you have a feeling, a thought, whatever, just comment below wherever you're listening or watching it. The more you comment, the more you engage with us and like and share and all those things, the more likely you are that we will reward you by sending you some free merch. So if you want some free merch, go ahead and comment below. Be a part of the good side. We just want to thank you for that. So our next guest is an entrepreneur and investor with a passion for community marketing and innovation. Tom is the founder and CEO of 1-800 T-Shirts and Envision Custom Screen Printing and Embroidery, an Inc. 5000 company, the co-founder of Dimensional Brewing Company, a microbrewery in Dubuque, Iowa, and president of Rauen Capital, a commercial real estate investing firm. Put your hands together for Mr. Tom Rauen. Mr. Tom, it's so awesome to have you on the good side. How's it going, man?
Yeah, doing good.
Awesome. Are you surviving down in this cold, frigid Iowa winter we're having?
Yes, loving the winter. I like all the variations of the 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to have that when you live in a northern climate, for sure. There's a lot of people that don't, and they just kind of become hermits in the winter, and I feel kind of bad for them. Cool, man. Awesome. So I'm just going to get right in. I want to know Mr. Tom a little bit better, and I want everybody else to, because you have an amazing story. Tell me, where'd you grow up? Like, where are you originally from?
So I grew up in Farley, Iowa, very small town. I think maybe population 1,000, somewhere in there. And so, yeah, just pretty small town in the middle of Iowa.
Awesome. And describe your childhood for me.
Like I said, pretty basic, small town stuff, playing with the neighbor kids. Both grandparents grew up on a farm, and so, we would go and help out on the farm different times. I grew up with a huge family, extended family. My mom's got 10 siblings, my dad's got 4 siblings, and so I have like 70-some first cousins. And so growing up, like, this big extended family was always big, whether it was birthday parties or holidays. That was a big part of growing up.
Wow. So 70 first cousins, all within, like, striking distance, so you're, like, seeing them at family functions, right?
Yeah, there was literally, like, my grandparents lived on the street. I had 3 aunt and uncles that lived on the same street. So, like, all of our cousins, literally, like, we would get together all the time. My cousin Jeremy, like, we would ride to school together and basically did, like, everything together. So, like, we were always just, like, this huge extended family. Birthday parties, you name it, like holidays, Christmas, if you can imagine cramming 100 people into a basement and everyone opening up gifts, like, it's an event.
That was what I was about to ask, is how is it possible in the winter when there's not outdoor venues, it's not feasible to do things outdoors, how can you even fit everybody into one place to celebrate these holidays? What did that look like and feel like as a kid?
It just packed in, and a lot of commotion, obviously, with, like, a lot of kids and things like that, and there's people playing cards and games and, like, other groups doing different things. So it's just like this big wild party that's happening, and a lot of food. As we got older, a lot of beer, but just a lot of fun, and just kind of seeing and growing up with everyone in this big extended family was just a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So okay, what did you say the size of your town, Farley, was?
Probably around 1,000 people.
Okay, so your family represented roughly 10% of the town.
Yeah, now that you say that, yeah.
Wow. So I guess that could go both ways. That could be really good and really bad. But wow, that's amazing. So where did where did Tom fall into all that? Like, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
So I've got one older brother, two younger brothers, and then a younger sister. Ranging from 1 year, my older brother's 1 year older, and my sister is 14 years younger.
Wow. So you kind of are in the middle, but you are more of an older sibling.
Yeah, definitely on the older side.
Cool. So how did that feel, I guess, with that age discrepancy? So when you were 14, you're in middle school, kind of figuring life out, right? And your parents tell you, hey, Tom, you got another baby sister, is it?
Yeah.
You got a baby sister on the way. Like, how did you act as a teenager?
It was super exciting because we had 4 boys, and we wanted a sister, and I knew how bad my parents wanted a baby girl as well, and so it was exciting for us to have this new baby sister. And growing up throughout much of middle school and high school and stuff, like, I was babysitting her, and that was part of it during the summers and stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And now, of course, I know this because I went to school briefly where you're living now. So how did you end up in Dubuque? Like, how far is that from Farley? Like, give me kind of the background on the Dubuque for you.
Yeah, so I ended up in a small private college, University of Dubuque, about 20 minutes from where I grew up. And, I was eyeing up the University of Iowa or Iowa State and some bigger colleges, and being like the extrovert I am, like a bigger size college probably would have fit me the best. But in the end, like, I don't know, for some reason it just felt right. And maybe it was because of that smaller size, because it felt like that hometown, small town feel to it. And so I liked the small classrooms, I liked everything. And then I was able to kind of just like adapt to, building relationships and friendships and stuff like that, like you would in a small town, because that's what the school felt like.
That's awesome. So it kind of was almost like felt at home there because it was the smaller town, and you kind of were used to that feeling, and it was comfortable to you.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you consider yourself to be? You're more of you do better as a big fish in a small sea as opposed to a small fish in a big sea?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. So how far is Farley from Dubuque?
20 minutes.
Okay, so we're not talking you left, you traveling hours to, but you must have liked Dubuque enough to stay.
Yeah, I started building relationships, and like that, it's got more amenities than the small town of Farley, so it was like, more places to eat and everything else that's going on. So, really just enjoy it here. And it's easy to get to other places as far as traveling goes. So, we're 3 hours from Chicago, 3 hours from Des Moines, Milwaukee, a lot of places. So it's just kind of the central hub that's easy for us to still travel, but yet have that small town feel.
For sure. And I'll tell people too, like, how I think I actually met you. You caught my attention in an amazing way. So I went to school in Dubuque at University of Dubuque as well for about a year. I played football down there. I was recruited to play. And I really, for all intents and purposes, really enjoyed it. Very nice school. Years later, I'm an entrepreneur, and I get tagged in this post, and it's, I wrote a book, and it's a copy of my book at the University of Dubuque library. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, they picked up my book. This is amazing. Like, I'm going to be famous. Like, libraries are like buying my book. And then I do a little more digging. I come to realize, wait a minute, no, this guy named Tom took my book to the library at the school I played football at and put it in the library and took a picture of it in the library. And I thought that was the coolest thing. So tell the people this story. Like, what did you break a few rules, maybe bend a rule or two to do that, or how did you pull that off?
No, well, so I was following you with the Dream 100, and what's the ultimate Dream 100 like thing to the Dream 100 guy, and then when I learned that you went to the same college as me, I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. And I was like, all right, well, what would be a cool gift? And so I decided to donate the book to the library, and have them added as a thing that, for other students to share. And I shared the story with a librarian, some other people at the college that like, hey, this is the University of Dubuque, like former student that wrote this amazing book. Like, you guys should have this here and tell your classes and things like that. So then I put it in there, and then I told the whoever was working, I'm like, we're going to put this in like the most popular section. Like the latest releases are like, here's the most popular books this month, and like 5 books. I'm like, so we're putting it right there, right in the front when people walk in. And so like, all right, I'm going to take some pictures of that, send it to you, let them know, that's what I did. And then I obviously needed another copy after that. So that was the idea behind it.
That's amazing, man. That was one of the coolest gestures to date that I've seen someone do. So I just want to tell you I appreciate you for that, and that was next level. So let's shift gears here for a second. I want to get to inside the brain of Mr. Tom here for a second, and inside the belly too. So what's a food that you absolutely love?
Oh wow, craft beer.
Okay. Now that I'll give you that. That's got calories and it definitely will fill you up and feel like you ate a meal. So tell me a little bit about the craft beer. What's your go-to craft beer?
I like hazy IPAs, but it really depends on the season. I like them all, and I like the variety and the different tastes and stuff that brewers are able to come up with. So I think I like the creativity behind it, of just seeing and trying different ones.
For sure. Now, if you ever, do you ever try a craft beer and it just tastes absolutely terrible?
Yes, definitely.
And go ahead.
I'm not afraid to pour it out now. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I've gotten permission, like other, brewer friends and stuff like that. They're like, it's okay if you don't like the beer, you can pour it out. Like, there's so many different beers in the world. They're like, just if you have a bad one, just pour it out. Not all of them are good. And then just move on to another one that you might like better. And I thought that was so great to like hear, because like it's like, I don't want to waste it, but I said, well, beer should be enjoyed. So if you don't enjoy it, don't like go through, don't like force yourself to drink it. Just like open up another one and you'll enjoy the next one.
That's awesome. So there's an etiquette to it, but for the most part, and by the way, guys, we'll get into this here in a second. Tom knows a lot about beer. Because why?
Co-founder of a craft brewery in Dubuque.
That's awesome. When I caught wind that you were doing that, I was like, wow. I was equal parts really excited and like, that's awesome. Look at what Tom's doing. And also equal parts not surprised whatsoever that Tom would be doing that. So, but I give me a little bit of insight as far as serving people with the spirit of the food and getting people. Making them happy. With respect to the brewery, I know that you're not there working every day by any means, but what are some things you've kind of figured out over the course of time owning it that are just kind of a slight edge as far as like serving customers and just all things brewery related?
I think it's just like creating an atmosphere and a place where people can like gather and create experiences, memories with others, whether they're celebrating a milestone at work, or maybe it's a birthday or something else, and just like being able to provide that of like, hey, we're getting together, we had this great time, and we're celebrating an accomplishment, we're doing something, or a gathering place for people in the community or family and friends who are getting back together, who are living apart out of town. So especially this time of year when we see like people can get together for the holidays or different things like that, that means like much more to me, and like is very fulfilling beyond just the beer, and having beer as that catalyst that gets people there is a fun part of it. Totally.
So really it's about how their time is spent when they're there.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. Now let's switch gears and why don't you tell everybody what are some of the top accomplishments that you've been able to do in your life?
So there's 3 things that come to mind that I either worked really hard for, they were big goals, or they were just big things that I was able to not only do myself, but also incorporate others in the community as part of an experience, and have them kind of be part of it as well. And that was breaking a Guinness World Record for wearing the most t-shirts at one time, and that was 247 t-shirts, which right there is the record. Winning the Mines of Spain 100-mile race while running, and raising $100,000 for the University of Iowa Children's Hospital with Mac and Cheese Fest.
Wow, that's amazing. So I actually I want to dive into each of these three because they're so unique and they're such an incredible accomplishment. So first of all, let's talk about, guys, Tom is a Guinness World Record holder, and not from some fluke thing where he was born with eyeballs that pop out of his head or something, right? Something that he actually worked and trained to do, believe it or not. Tell us a little bit, take us to that day where you put the 247 t-shirts on. What was it like?
Yeah, so I had this idea, and initially it was, I want to break Guinness World Records. So then I was like, okay, what can I do that ties t-shirts in it with the 1-800 t-shirts business? And so I was like, okay, so I'm Googling, I see it, and I see the current record is 245 shirts, and this guy is like buried in shirts. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And definitely just from a visual aspect of it, I'm like, this is like going to create an impact. So then I was like, let's do it in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve. And a mentor of mine said, no, don't do that. He's like, do you realize like all the crazy stuff that happens in Vegas, especially on New Year's Eve? He's like, you would barely be a blip in the radar. He's like, no one would, like, a few people would notice. It might get picked up by the news, like, who knows? But it would literally be a sideshow in Vegas. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. He's like, just do it right here in Dubuque, do it in your hometown, and establish yourself as the t-shirt king of Dubuque with this. And so we did it right here locally at the Diamond Joe Casino in the sports bar there. And there's about 300 people that came and watched it happen live. So that was incorporated in the community aspects. I was really grateful. My friends and family and everyone was there to watch. And then we sold sponsorships on each of the t-shirts that I put on, and we raised about $5,000 for juvenile diabetes during it. So it was kind of neat. Like, we incorporated this charity aspect, the community aspect, and then did the record. And then I had a team of 7 people that were helping. It was the t-shirt squad. They were helping put the t-shirts on me, because after a certain amount, like, you can't move your arms or anything. So you need a team that's putting them on, kind of going through the whole thing and counting them. I mean, there was a whole production to go with it.
That's amazing. So the 247th shirt, which was your final shirt, right?
Yeah.
What was the size of that shirt?
It was a 20XL.
20XL. So this is to the point where is that even a human size at that point?
It's commercially, and that was one of the rules. It has to be commercially available. So it was not like a custom-made shirt or anything like that. We ordered it from a place called Big T's, and you can get 5X, 6X, 7X, 8X, 9X, 10X, and then it skips from 10X to 20X.
Wow!
And the 20X is like the size of probably a twin bed, maybe a queen size bed. Like, it's a pretty big shirt.
Dang. So guys, put that into context here. So you're not just throwing that over top of you like a giant, drape. You have 246 shirts underneath that have poofed you out to that size. So what is that, all of the weight of those shirts, what did that do to you physically?
So it was like well over 200 pounds, and it took about an hour and 45 minutes to do. And as far as physically goes, like my neck, my shoulders, my back, I had like contusions, basically bruising from like the impact of that weight and then the pressure of it for a while after the event. And as the collars of it was like getting up over my neck, it felt like a neck brace. And then towards the end, like when I was getting up like over 220 stuff, it was above my mouth, so I was only breathing out of my nose at that point. And it was basically communicating with my eyes for like yes and no questions. And so it got a little scary. It was not like something just easily done. Like going in, we had planned for, and we had well over 300 shirts there. I thought, you know what, we can just crush this. We're going to get over 300 shirts. That's what we have planned. But early on in at around 175, I started losing all feeling in my fingers and then in my arms up to my shoulders, and I didn't know, okay, at what point does my body like react from this, maybe shut down or something. So that's when we kind of kicked it into high gear. We started increasing sizes a lot quicker, and then the goal then was like, all right, we just have to break the record. We got to get one pass and then one more for a cushion just in case we miscounted or something. And so that's how we ended up at 247.
That's amazing. So,
hey, I want to take a quick second to talk about today's show sponsor. So first is the Therapy Farm. So therapyfarm.com is an online community that is bringing kids that are suffering with illnesses or ailments or just otherwise are struggling, and it connects them virtually to folks that own animals. And what happens is they'll have every week they'll get together and they'll spend some time digitally via a video chat. And what's really cool about it is it gives the child that maybe is going through an illness, even a terminal illness, or just is struggling developmentally or behaviorally, it gives them something to look forward to every single week, puts a smile on their face, and actually impacts the whole family in a really positive way. And it's 100% on the back of volunteers that volunteer time with their animals, and it's a really special place. So if you feel it on you to help kind of contribute to that cause, head over to therapyfarm.com. You can make a donation. You can volunteer yourself and your animal, or you can even nominate a child that you know that could use that free service. So 100% free service for kids, sick kids, struggling kids, to put a little special animal connection in their life. So go over to therapyfarm.com. The next sponsor I want to talk about is if you are ever in the need for apparel printing or accessories, hats, jackets, jerseys, sports team jerseys, work uniforms, corporate gifts, etc. Everything you can think of. My friends over at 1-800-T-Shirts would love to help you. And I've got a special deal if you go over to if you call 1-800-T-Shirts, tell them the Good Side sent you, or go over to 1-800-T-Shirts.com, use promo code Good Side, and they're going to give you a special deal and take good care of you. So 1-800-T-Shirts is a Midwest-based company. I know the founder personally. They're an amazing company, and they'll take really good care of you on your next T-shirt. This is more than T-shirts. It's everything. So apparel, you name it, they can take care of you. No orders too small, no orders too large. They can even set you up with an online store, which is what I use personally. It's amazing. They take care of everything. So go over to 1-800-T-Shirts, call 1-800-T-Shirts, or go to 1-800-T-Shirts.com and get all of your apparel and printing needs taken care of. So again, I want to thank the sponsors, therapyfarm.com, 1-800-T-Shirts.com, and here's
47.
That's amazing. So, did you have like a safe word or something, or like an eject word?
No, and we had paramedics on site, and they kept asking, how's his circulation? Can you feel his arm? All these things, and we weren't going to let it stop. So even like we were basically just answering the questions in a way that we knew they weren't going to shut it down, and I was willing to do whatever it took to beat that record.
So, not even short of dying, probably.
Yeah. So I did have an out-of-body experience during it.
You did.
Like I said, when I started losing all that feeling, I just had this weird. It's really hard to explain, but I could see myself from the outside, and my body felt like a shell. And then all the sound in the room just became kind of an echo and like just this muffled noise. And I remember looking out in the crowd and seeing like my parents and my friends and family, and I came at peace with myself, like literally while they're putting shirts on, that like if something happens and I die here, like I'm okay with it because I'm surrounded by my friends and family. And so it was there was some things I went through during it, and people that were in the room will tell you like it got really dark. I looked out, I could see tears in people's eyes that were watching, because they were like, holy crap, what is happening? Did he push it too far this time? And it wasn't until like, I think we were at like 235 shirts, and and this had been going on for probably a half hour, where it was like, holy crap, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I remember my uncle stood up and put his arms in the air and just let out this big cheer. And the whole room just stood up then too and started cheering. And I distinctly remember like this big adrenaline rush, and it totally changed my mood, how I was feeling, and the whole mood of the room. And then they were counting down at that point, from 15 to 10 and whatever. And so it was a huge turning point, and like went from this things could go bad here at any moment to, no, we've got this, let's do it.
Wow, that's amazing. And I believe I've heard you say before that you've promised you'd never do that again, right? If somebody broke that record,
no, 100% no.
That's probably good.
Yeah, and I think going in, if I would have known the severity or the complexity of how dangerous it could be, I definitely wouldn't have attempted it.
That's awesome. Well, thank God you made it through. You got the award, and you're still here with us.
Yeah.
But as crazy as that is, pushing your body in that moment, you have done even way crazier things with your ultra marathons.
Yeah.
So why don't you walk us through a little bit about how did you get into those? Why do you do them? And what keeps you from, listening to your body when it says to stop?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I started off, we were doing T-shirts for a 5K race, and it was for some charity. I said, you know what, I want to support this charity, and I should get back into shape a little bit. So I ran the 5K to support them. And then a couple weeks later, we were doing another one. I'm like, I should do that again. I'm super competitive. So I was like, all right, I'm going to keep doing these. And then I was like, you know what, I think I should add, I had a half marathon and a full marathon on my bucket list. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I signed up for a half marathon, did it, and it wasn't too bad. Signed up for a full marathon, completed that, and everything felt fine. And then I ended up getting sponsored by Chocolate Milk, and they paid for my marathon entries for like a whole year. And I didn't know it at the time, but so in that year, I'd done like 6 full marathons and like 8 half marathons in 1 year. And we got to the end of the year, and like I'm talking to people and I'm telling them this, and they're like, wait a minute, you did what? And I'm like, yeah, they were paid for, so we traveled around and we did all these. Like, do you realize most people do like one, like in their lifetime, maybe one a year? You did like way more than that. I'm like, oh, it didn't even like dawn on me that it was against the norm. So then the next year, like we started doing it again, but then I was getting tired of doing half marathons and marathons. And I saw some people running on trails, and one guy was training for a 50-mile race. I was like, whoa, that seems crazy. Like, there's no possible way a human can run 50 miles. And he's like, well, the 50 is just like the starting stepping stone. He's like, there's 100-mile races and stuff like that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, there's no way. Like, my brain couldn't even wrap its head. Like, I couldn't even think about that. But then, like, I get home and I'm like, okay, this sounds a lot more exciting than running a marathon. So I signed up for my first 50-mile race. I got done, and like I didn't have this huge like breaking point or like moment when I got done of accomplishment even. So then I'm like, all right, I got to sign up for a 100-miler. So I signed up for a 100-miler, and it was kind of the same thing. Like I got done, and it was like, well, I was expecting it to be a lot harder, more hardship and stuff like that. But my training leading up to it just prepared me for what my body was going to go through. So since then, I've continually to do harder and harder races and push my body harder and harder. And I think going back to like where you said like, why do you do this? And I think I'm intrigued by pushing my body to the limit, mentally, physically, emotionally, to see what is possible. And then when you reach that new like threshold, you realize like, holy crap, there's another gear in there. There's another level that you can reach that you didn't even know it. And while doing that, I learned that like not only in endurance sports or breaking that world record, but there's also those limits in business and other aspects of life where it's like you think there's some sort of limit or somewhere there that It's like as far, but that's just because that's only far as you've gone before. So once you push that new boundary, then it's like, oh, well, I can go there. Like, where's the next breaking point?
Wow. So, take me. What is the most difficult race you think you've completed?
Say that again.
What's the most difficult race you think you've completed?
I would say the Tahoe Rim 100, which is 100 miles around Lake Tahoe, because of the elevation and climbing. I mean, you're going up like double diamond ski hills, and that one was difficult, and so was Western States 100, which I did this summer, and there was different levels of difficulty there because of the heat. You know, it's like 90 degrees, and you're trying to regulate your body temperature, and I ran into some GI issues where, you know, I was getting sick from mile 45 through the last 55 miles. So trying to keep calories in and everything else, like they all had like different challenges.
So let's go to the Tahoe race, and if you can zero in on the toughest moment of that race, and then walk us through what was that like, what happened, and just describe it for us.
Yeah, I was probably at mile 70 something, let's just say 73. I'd been out on the course for over 22, 23 hours at that point, probably. Completely out of energy, staring at a hill in front of me that's, you know, a couple thousand feet of climb, and it's the middle of the night. It's cold. I'm like completely out of everything mentally. I'm drained. I'm at the final point of exhaustion. And at this point in the race, I've got a pacer with me, my buddy Matt, and I'm like, Matt, I'm done. I'm like, I can't go any farther, and I'm ready to quit. I was basically hallucinating. Like in my mind, I wanted like a mountain lion or some sort of animal, a bear, whatever, to attack me. So then I had a reason to quit without quitting on my own. Like that's where my head was at that point because it was so hard. And he looked at me and he goes, Tom, no matter what you feel like right now, no matter how hard you think this is, the only time in your life you're going to feel worse than right now is when you wake up in the hotel room tomorrow knowing you didn't finish this race. And I was like, holy crap. And then it was just at that moment, it was just like a switch and a mindset shift. It was like, okay, I've been wanting to quit for the last 2 hours, and I mean, actually for the last probably 8 hours, right? And I had like all these negative thoughts going through my head of like, I want an animal to attack me. I just want to quit. Like, what can I do to get myself out of this situation? To the point where the light switch flipped, and it was like, no, we're finishing this no matter what. We have to switch to a positive frame of mind, and like, how do we keep going and just tackle one step at a time, one section, 1 mile, whatever it is, and just keep going no matter what.
Wow. There's so many parallels to what you just said in the last 10 seconds to every application of that in life, business, etc. So all of you out there that are listening or watching this, hit the 15-second rewind button. Listen to what Tom just said again. One step at a time. How can we get this done? No matter what you're facing, what situation, I mean, am I wrong in thinking that's literally the solution every single time?
Yeah, and I've taken that same, I've played back that same story in my head in a lot of these different situations, whether it was through breaking the Guinness World Record or running these 100-mile races. Anytime I run into a difficult situation personally with family or in business, in 2020 with the pandemic, people are like, why are you so calm and handling all this stress and all this stuff? I'm like, this is nothing. I've been through so much more in so many different situations. I'm like, this is just like another thing that I'm like, okay, I keep positive. I, look at, what you can control, stuff like that. and then just keep moving forward, like one step at a time. Like I couldn't look at in 2020, like I couldn't look at, all right, what's going to happen next month or the rest of the year, 6 months from now. Like I just had to take one day at a time. Like what's going to happen in the next hour.
Amen. And I think that so brilliantly represents the good side and what we're trying to do here, and what we all are embodying as the good side. And I think you also embracing these situations is obviously allowing you to do more, because it's like you get a callus every time you accomplish something that was really difficult, right? Now the next thing that happens that's less difficult doesn't matter as much, right? And it's almost like you've got this kind of built-in shield that just kind of just lets you get through things without as much thinking and emotional extraction of your energy, right? You can just kind of just go through it because you've been through more difficult things. Then let's move to the third accomplishment, which, by the way, anybody that's got a Guinness World Record, you could pretty much chop it up, call it a day on life. You did pretty darn good. Anybody that completes an ultra marathon 100-mile race definitely can chop it up, call it good on life. You know, those are amazing accomplishments, let alone getting both of those. But you have a third one that's even equally incredible, and that is raising $100,000 for Iowa Children's Hospital, specifically by selling mac and cheese, which is insane. Tell us, why is the Iowa Children's Hospital important to you? Why did you raise money for them?
So my son Thomas was born prematurely at 33 weeks, and we spent 19 days in the NICU down there. And you know, once we got done and we were home and so like, all right, I've got to do something to be able to give back and, you know, repay these amazing doctors and nurses, and also just like keep providing for other families that are down there going through, you know, similar situations than us or even worse. And I knew that, like, you know, a bake sale or something like small, like, just wasn't going to move the needle. So I was like, I got to do something big where I can create a lot of impact and raise a lot of money. And I was looking at like different events and things like that, and I love mac and cheese. Anytime we go out to eat, like, my side, it's mac and cheese if it's on the menu. And I love craft beer, so I'm like, what if I take like a craft beer festival and then mash it up with mac and cheese, and then you got like mac and cheese fest. And so did this, and the first year we raised, there's like 1,000 people that come to it. We got 20 restaurants all cooking different types of mac and cheese. So we got like lobster mac and bacon mac, and then they're coming up with like dessert mac and cheese, is like just crazy concoctions. They're absolutely amazing because they're competing for awards that we come up with, and then we got 20 breweries sampling all sorts of craft beer. So it's like this cool festival, live music, and 1,000 people just having a good time and raising money for charity. Most people there just love the atmosphere and the mac and cheese and the beer, that they don't even realize we're raising money for charity for part of it. And so I came up with this, and we've been doing it for the last 4 years and have raised well over $100,000. And right now I'm working on putting together a license for it and basically helping others put on the same mac and cheese fest throughout the United States. So hopefully soon you'll be able to see mac and cheese fest happening throughout the United States, and, you know, raising hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for charities all over the place.
That's so amazing, man. And I wanna hone in on one thing. Now, when you guys were in the NICU with Thomas, were you at the Iowa City Children's Hospital?
Yeah, so we're at it's University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital, the one made famous right by the stadium with the Iowa wave that all the football fans do after the first quarter. So we were there. And it was kind of wild, like going through everything. We'd seen that building being built, and then, you know, we ended up in the building, you know, once it was completed.
Wow. And I don't want to just gloss over that detail either, guys. I think personally, as a fan of sports, the greatest tradition in college football, probably top three, possibly the best, is the the Iowa Hawkeyes football team, the entire stadium at the end of the first quarter, the Iowa team, the visiting team, every single fan, they turn their heads over to the Children's Hospital. Actually overlooks the stadium, and so there's a bunch of windows. The kids, if they can, go up to the window, and every single human in that stadium turns around and waves to the kids in the hospital, and it's one of the coolest things in sports. So for you to be able to be on the receiving end of that, although the circumstances are absolutely not fun, how was that to, like, did that get you guys through it? Was it something cool that Thomas was able to look forward to? Like, how was that for you guys?
So we were there. So it was 6 years ago, and we were there before the tradition of the wave started, because it literally, was just after the hospital was completed. So I'm not even sure if like the top floors were done. Like I know they had the NICU floor and a couple other areas done, but the entire hospital wasn't even completed when we were there.
Wow. Okay. Cool. To be a fan of that team and to live in that state and have that tradition, that's amazing. Like we have in Wisconsin, we have jump around, but that doesn't even come close to registering as cool as the Iowa tradition. So let's move on to I want to know who was your biggest inspiration growing up?
Probably my parents.
Why's that?
Just kind of seeing their work ethic. So they both grew up on a farm, and they had strong work ethic. Always willing to pitch in wherever, help others out or neighbors out, other people in town. Going to charity events, supporting the local church and fire department and stuff like that. So just like seeing how they supported everyone else around them was super inspiring for my values and stuff growing up.
Very cool. So was there can you think of a moment in time where maybe you hit a certain age or maturity level, or when you really started developing that appreciation for your parents and their work ethic?
Maybe after college, when I was like, maybe even during college a little bit. Like I was always, grinding, side hustling, and everything. Where like I always had this ambition to like go out, do stuff, be active, whatever. Like not just sit on the couch and like do nothing or sit on the computer all day. So I think that's when I realized I'm like, oh yeah, like this is why maybe, and
got it
things
somewhere.
like that. Like I was just always wanting to look and do and be active.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to, everybody sees your amazing wall there. So take us to today, kind of what you guys do, and what the mission is behind your company.
Yeah, so we 1-800-T-shirts.com, and we help people tell their story with a T-shirt. So, our saying is there's a story behind every shirt, and we don't know what that is, whether it's someone that's going through a challenging time, maybe dealing with cancer or some other ailment, and the T-shirt is, it ends up becoming their like superhero cape, and their friends and family wearing, the fight cancer or whatever, to help support them and show that support when sometimes words can't say enough. Just wearing that shirt is showing and saying that support for them. Or, it's the small business person who, gets shirts for all their employees and stuff, and it's like, you're part of the team. And not only that, but they get them for their maybe 5 or 6 year old kid, and now that kid feels like he's part of the team too. Or it's the baseball team, and the kid is first time playing baseball, and maybe at school he doesn't have a lot of friends, or he's a little left out, and now he's on the baseball team, and he's got the jersey just like everyone else, and he's part of that team, and now he's building those friendships and getting that experience and everything else. So like whatever it is, there's a story behind every T-shirt, and I love hearing those stories, and I love seeing the impact and the power that a message on a T-shirt can create.
Wow. So it's bigger than the fabric. It's bigger than the ink, right?
Yeah, much more than that.
Cool. And so people know too, kind of the leading up to where you are now with 1-800 T-shirts. you didn't just get lucky and come across that name and just have everything easy, right? So what's the story behind 1-800 T-shirts for you?
Yeah, so I started at my parents' basement right after college, and just pressing T-shirts, and then we got a retail location. Start off the name as Envision Sports Designs, and then as we continued to grow, the name evolved into Envision Screen Printing and Embroidery, and then we've acquired some companies throughout the years, and then finally, like from a marketing perspective, I was like, I need the phone number 1-800 T-shirts, like for more than just a local, but I want to be on a national scale. And so I reached out to the owner of the phone number, and he had the number for over 30 years, and the domain and everything. And he said, well, I'm planning on retiring in 2020, and this was 2015. And I said, all right, well, I want to be like the first on the list. And so from 2015 to 2020, we start to build a relationship. I'd stay in contact with him, write him letters, call him on the phone, whatever, email. And then finally in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, it's like, well, he's ready to retire. And, I'm wanting to buy this business and the intellectual property and stuff like that. I was like, all right, this is an absolute crazy time. I should not be buying a business right now in the middle of a pandemic.
Yep.
But I felt like everything was aligned right because we had talked about this from the beginning in 2015. Like, this is when it's happening. And so I just had this gut feeling like, no, this is the time, this is right. We'll figure this out and make it happen. And so we completed the acquisition, and it actually was the perfect timing because as stuff started opening back up in the fall of 2020, adding their customers and combining that with ours and both businesses together, it really just gave us momentum and propelled us out of 2020 and into 2021. And then we've continued to grow from there.
That's so awesome. I can resonate completely with you on that purchase you made, which I'll kind of get into here in a second. But I want to go back to, I think, a moment in time that's very important, a catalyst. I know you've talked about this before, and you don't dwell on this. You do such an amazing job of just keep pushing forward, just like every step when you're on your ultra marathons, or every shirt when you're crushing your insides to win the records. But one thing I read you shared not too long ago was a comment somebody made about your silly little T-shirt idea or T-shirt business, right? Back in college. Take us there.
So when I was starting the T-shirt business, I was in my parents' basement for 3 or 4 months, and then we got a 2,000 square foot storefront. And I was bartending at the time. I was working for American Airlines at the time. And so I'm working like literally nonstop during the day, at the T-shirt business, at night bartending or working the door at the bar. And then like on the weekends or in between those times, I was like checking people in and like loading bags for American Airlines. And, my boss at American Airlines was like, if you really want to excel here at this company, like you've got to take this more seriously, and like you should quit the T-shirt thing because like you're never going to go anywhere with that, and you've got a real future here with American Airlines. And then one of the managers at the bar I worked at was like, what's this funny T-shirt thing, blah blah blah. I was like always just kind of throwing like little jabs about it, and so like that was just like early on in the business, like just feel like, all right, I just want to keep working hard. Like, they say like the chip on your shoulder, like prove them wrong. But I knew like it was going to succeed no matter, like I was going to do whatever it took to make it succeed. And I was just like, I'm just going to show these guys like they don't even know what they're talking about. So I put in my 2 weeks at the airlines and was like, all right, see you. I'll see you on the other side type of thing. And the bar continued working there. And that manager ended up getting fired. But then, after that, once things really started taking off, I stepped away from that as well to put, all the focus on this.
Wow, that's so cool. And How old were you roughly when that was going down?
Like 23.
A
So I started when I was
23-year-old
23, 24. Just still learning the ropes, just still trying to figure out life and everything else. And, it was just like, maybe a little stubbornness or bullheadedness there. It was just like, all right, I'm going to make this happen no matter what.
Yeah, I that's what I want to. I wanted to kind of zero in on a little bit too. Is like, as a 23-year-old, that's still a very fragile person, especially considering you're probably fresh out of college and figuring things out and not knowing which direction to go. And you kind of get this excitement about the T-shirt idea, and then somebody that you is an authority figure to you, your boss, makes a negative comment about it. Like, how do you not take that and internalize that and let that kind of spoil your desire and excitement over the T-shirt stuff? How'd you get past that?
I don't know. Like, looking back, I was just like, probably, for lack of better terms, like, I just look at the good side and was like, all right, what am I going to enjoy the most, or like what has the most future potential value and stuff like that. And I was like, I've always had the entrepreneur mindset and spirit, so I was just like, all right, this is like the better path to go. Like, just go for it.
That's awesome. I love that. And circling back to the 1-800 T-shirts acquisition, which, by the way, guys, like 5 years of keeping in touch with somebody is a long time. That's a lot of work. So he didn't just, he earned that. Tom earned the fact that he was able to acquire that terrific real estate in the name, the domain name, and the phone number. And I want to tell you this. I'm not sure if you feel how I feel, but I one of the sponsors of the show, the Therapy Farm, I acquired the domain name, and I paid a lot. I've never paid that much for a domain name, ever. And there were many times where I clicked out of the window and was like, no, I can't justify it. Why am I buying therapyfarm.com for this amount when I could go and buy onlinetherapyfarm.com for $9? It's available, right? It's the same thing, basically. But here's what I just thought of when you explained this to me. And I want to know if you feel the same way. If I would have copped out and bought onlinetherapyfarm.com for $9, I wouldn't be all in. I wouldn't have my back against the wall to make that investment right. I wouldn't have the skin in the game that I do. And I think the same for you. And you tell me if I'm wrong here, but if you would have bought 1844 T-shirts, right, for $50, because it's probably available, how different would that be than you actually doing it right and getting the actual name and going through all that work to get it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you gotta go, you gotta make it happen, and then it forces you to like take action and keep moving forward. And when it's kind of like when Facebook started, it was thefacebook.com.
Yeah.
And like, drop the like, keep it simple, like, be that, so if you're going to be the king of that, like, that's where it's like, yeah, I could have did a lot of other T-shirt domains, but I'm like, there's only 1-800 T-shirts. Like, that, I need that one. I want that.
That's awesome. I love that. And it reminds me of a real quick story of a good friend of mine named Alex Formosi, who I know you know. Back before he was hugely famous, I was had a conversation with him, and he said that we were talking about like how many people actually complete like the courses they buy from us, and he said he had something like 95% completion rate, which is absolutely unbelievable. It is so much higher than the industry average, let alone anything I was seeing or any of our peers were seeing, that it almost didn't make sense, and it was hard to believe. And I asked him, what are you doing differently than me? And he said, it's very simple, Dana. I sell to gym owners that give me their last $5,000. They're sleeping at their gym. Do you think they have a choice whether or not they go through my program? And it was like, ding, 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 ding. That made so much sense to me. So I'm not telling you to go out and buy something you can't afford and go crazy, but I think that against the wall mentality kind of, in a way we kind of have that now that we've made that big investment, time, energy, money, effort, et cetera, and focus, that we kind of have that now, right? And if we wouldn't have done that, how far do you think we would have taken this? Would you even have rebranded for a lesser name than this? Because you were already an established brand, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got 17 years in at, with the Envision brand, and so it's got a lot of built up, stuff with it that, it took a big name to be able to overcome that brand.
Absolutely. All right, I want to shift gears, and we'll get into. I think it's about to be a perfect example of why Tom epitomizes the good side. So, Tom, tell me, what's something pretty terrible that's happened to you, and what's the good side of it?
So in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, one of our employees started a competing company, and then proceeded, and I didn't know this at the time, but they'd been planning this out long before the pandemic even started. And then they basically poached and took like a lot of our top talent and the managers and stuff like that from every department in the business. And so, we're sitting in the middle of the pandemic. We lose pretty much a third of our staff in the top, and it's rebuilt now from the ground up. So that was, definitely a tough position to go through, but like everything else I go through, I'm like, all right, we can figure this out. Like, this will only make us better and stronger and more resilient moving forward. And so, after that, we rehired and we found better people, and our culture, has been built better because of it. And so many other things have come from it that, at the beginning, what looked like and what felt like just a really tough point in the company ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Wow. This wasn't that long ago either. This was a couple of years ago, so it's still relatively fresh.
This was like in May of 2020.
Yeah.
So we're 3 months into the we're 3 months into the shutdown basically.
Yeah. So we can focus on just how many things piled up for you on that time, but really I think that the amazing part and the good side of this is the fact that you didn't allow that negativity, that wronging, that backstabbing. You could use all these different words for it. You didn't let that stop you from fulfilling the mission that you're on, and you didn't let that even really slow you down to the extent where I would say, I'm not sure how to put it into words, but let me think too. Like, what was the timeline of when you actually closed on the 1-800 T-shirts deal and them leaving you in May of 2020? What was when did each of those happen?
Yeah, so March of 2020, March 15th, 2020, when the pandemic basically started shutting down businesses, we went from basically down to zero revenue real fast, just because all the sporting events and schools and trade shows and fundraisers, all that stuff just stopped immediately. And so we laid off some staff at that point. So that was in March. In May, this all kind of came about, and it was like, whoa, what is going on right now? And then in June, July, we started bringing back on board some of the staff that we laid off. We started looking at rehiring, refulfilling these positions, and then we closed on 1-800 T-shirts in September of 2020. And so that was, fourth quarter, coming back out of everything. It was like, all right, so as I was making that decision throughout that year was, oh my God, the core of the business, the foundation is somewhat in rebuild mode right now, or not real strong, because we're trying to rebuild, retrain, rehire everything as far as the team goes, and is now the right time to take on a whole nother business and customer base and everything like that. And it was just like, yes, like no, but yes, like let's do this, let's move forward, like let's use this to grab momentum and propel forward, and that's just the way we went about it.
That's awesome. I think a logical, analytical person would have said, "Heck, Bill, this is not the time to take another risk." But I love your by all means, right now or never mentality, and that's why you're where you're at and why you've built something so special. And I wanted to just circle back to also and ask you. Most people that would have been in your shoes would have watched the pandemic hit and realized, oh my gosh, our revenue went to zero overnight. And then they would have thought, oh my gosh, my key employees left. They opened up a competing shop literally downtown the same city I'm in. Like, pretty much betrayed everything they could to me professionally. I am a victim, and woe is me. And all of these things are happening to me. It's unfair. Everything I've spent all this time working toward and building is just crumbling, blah, blah, blah. Why didn't you take that natural stance of acting and thinking of yourself as a victim and feeling sorry for yourself in those moments?
I don't know. I guess I'm not wired that way. I mean, I'll say mentally and emotionally, it definitely wasn't easy. I went through some very tough times with that, and trying to, I think the hardest was just trying to process, like, why would they do this, or why would they, do that to me and things like that. But then looking at it and saying, all right, well, what can we come from this? Like, what can make us better because of this? And I've seen the saying, like, the pandemic and everything else, or whatever happens in life, like, it doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So I kept looking at that frame of mind, that mindset, and it was like the same mindset that comes, from building up those mental calluses during 100-mile races. Like, all right, this is happening for me, not to me. How can I finish this race? How can I keep going one more day, one more step, and rebuilding one step at a time, and not looking at this big picture of rebuilding this big company all in one shot. So it was, just that mentality is like, keep moving forward, keep going, and just take it in small bites.
It's something you do really well. I'm not sure if you even know this about yourself, but you show up. You keep showing up, even when others wouldn't. And I think that's super commendable as well. I want to switch gears here to kind of a topic that's pretty viral, and lots of people are getting on board with it or just talking about it and are uncertain about it, and that is AI. So I would love to hear, you guys do, obviously you're in the graphic design world and do a lot of things with digitally. So I would love to hear kind of your take just generally on what is AI to you, and how do you see it making any changes to kind of what you're doing or what your industry is heading toward?
Yeah, I love it. I'm fascinated by the power of it and, what it can do creatively. So, like, I look at it and, like, somebody comes in and they say, hey, I go to this high school and our mascot is the Bobcats, and we're having a bunch of friends ride RAGBRAI, which is a bike ride across the state of Iowa. And so I want a drawing of a Bobcat riding a bicycle while, holding a beer or something. Like people just always had like crazy ideas for shirts, right? And so for one of our designers to freehand draw this could take like a full day or multiple days to do. And the power of AI to be able to, and let's just say that order is 12 t-shirts. So in order for us to like have a designer to take the time to do that, we would have to charge just an exorbitant amount for the shirts because of the time that it takes to do the artwork and everything else. But if I'm able to plug like those prompts into AI, and within minutes, this amazing drawing comes out of the Bobcat riding a bicycle, holding a beer or whatever, like with a sunset in the background on the state of Iowa, like that is amazing to me. And so it makes us faster, makes us able to do it more efficiently and affordably for our customers. So, I'm looking and saying, like, how can we do this? And I don't think it will ever eliminate, 100% of what artists do and stuff like that. But if you can get you like 90% or 95% of the way there, and then our artists can go in, add extra detail, switch things, add the text, whatever, and get it to the finish line, like that helps out a lot. So I don't see it as something that will take over positions or take over like different things in industries, but I see it as a tool that will help assist and get people, a lot farther, faster, and more efficiently.
I love that. That's an awesome take on it. I think one thing for me that it seems like this isn't new per se. Is AI technology somewhat new as far as the mainstream access to it? Yes, for sure. But these types of pivots and adaptations, I suppose, have happened for a long time. I remember my high school, the only thing I ever learned in high school shop class is the shop teacher explained to us all one day, he's like, just so you guys know, the people that make all the money are not the people that work all these tools. They're the people that set them up and get them ready for the people to work on the tools. And I was like, thinking about that, and I'm like, that makes sense, because why is that? It's because that person's got a skill that the people that work the machinery don't have, right? So if a guy goes down that's working a machine all day in a factory, he's pretty easy to replace. We can get a new guy in, right? But if the guy that sets up the machine and understands the ins and outs of the machine goes down, now the machine goes down, right? So for me, looking at AI now, in the scenario you just suggested, the AI is not going to make that perfect bobcat riding the bicycle, drinking a beer with the Iowa background. It'll probably come pretty close, but you need that person that's skilled to input what it needs, the machine needs to create the image, and then probably tweak the image at the end or select the right ones or go through the process of, this is what I like about this one, make more, and then, get the actual perfect end result, right? And that I don't see ever going away.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I look at AI, we all have our own opinion. At first I was kind of threatened by it, I guess. It's just a natural reaction because now it's certainly creeping into the world of writing, copywriting specifically, in my, kind of where I'm from. And I laugh at the thought now of, you really think AI is going to outright a senior level, 10,000 hour trained copywriter? No, there's no way. And if anything, if you do it right, what Tom is suggesting, you still need that eye, that trained set of eyes to make sure that this is good copy, not bad copy. This is going to work on this campaign, right? And so just because the groundwork is done doesn't mean that it's, the AI is going to produce the perfect thing. So that kind of gave me a little bit of relief in terms of
I don't think AI isn't able to feel emotions, right? So how they can't convey the same emotions and feelings that a human writer can do. So I think as far as copywriting and stuff like that goes, like it can get the basics done. It can help maybe get out of some stuck moments, but ultimately, like the best, you can't replace the emotion and feelings that a human's able to convey through their copy.
For sure. Very good point. And also, I mean, the good side of this, look at just from a example that Tom just gave. Now, this kid in Iowa can have his run of 12 shirts printed at an affordable rate. Never was that the case before, right? So these kids can have crazy ideas and actually see them through now, thanks to AI. So in a lot of ways, it's actually helping a lot of people. So I want to switch gears here a little bit and ask you, what's a project or a goal that you are working on right now that you're excited about?
I'm super excited about Mac and Cheese Fest. Just being able to share that experience with everyone throughout the United States. Let whether it's business owners or people that want to start like a family foundation, to be able to, start that and raise money and make an impact for something they're passionate about, or maybe it's a nonprofit that is just looking for something new and fresh to do, where it's not like your typical golf outing and annual dinner and stuff like that. Like this is just such a fun and cool thing it's different, and it engages the community differently, and it just creates a cool, fun experience for everyone, and then raises the money on top of it. So that really excites me to be able to share that with others.
I love that. And I think one thing that you've done that's pretty special about how you've put this together is a lot of times, you'll have competing breweries in the same room, and they're not friendly to each other. They're not on the same team. They're not working together. They're just kind of trying to, you see that if you go to a beer tasting or a wine tasting or whatever, they're just not friendly with each other, and it's kind of that dynamic. But I think what Mac and Cheese Fest does is it brings everybody together. And everybody's there for a common cause, and that's to raise money for an awesome cause and to put smiles on faces and eat a bunch of mac and cheese, right?
Yes, definitely.
That's cool. So coming to a city near you, right? Mac and Cheese Fest.
Yes, for sure.
That's awesome. All right. Let's see. So this one's going to be, I think, I'm excited to hear your take on this. So sometimes I ask for funny stories, and I know that, you've lived 1,000 lives. But we are walking a similar path right now as parents. And so, I want to know, I think you and I probably struggle with the same thing, is that's keeping a straight face sometimes when we need to, right?
Yeah.
So give me a story or something that's happened with your kids that was just so hard for you to keep a straight face and not laugh.
I don't even know a specific one. I just know it happens a lot where either me or my wife are literally dying, pulling our sweatshirt up above our head, running to the other room, and typically it's me, and she's dealing with the situation or whatever's happening. 50% of the time it probably deals with poop or something like that. Or something just funny they say, they pick up stuff. Lately, over the Christmas holiday, we've been watching Home Alone and things like that. So repeating lines and stuff off of different movies or shows or whatever, it just cracks me up, and you never know what they're going to say or they're going to do together. And so some of it's just them bantering back and forth. Naked yoga is not allowed in the house. Things like that. It's like, I can't believe that just happened. That is amazing. So I think those moments happen all the time, and I get so much joy from it because I hope they always stay this hilarious, and I find joy in it forever because it's just such an amazing part of being a parent is seeing that, experience it, and then laughing and looking at the good side of it too, because some people get mad and discipline and everything else, and it's like we find that there's that fine line of you don't want to laugh right in front of them about it. You want to discipline, you want to do everything right, but at the same time make sure that they also know they're not hurting each other, they didn't hurt anything. It's some things are probably okay versus not okay type of things. It's finding that balance is probably the hardest part of it.
I totally resonate, and the problem with the laughing at their actions and behavior is if they see you laughing, this is why Tom's lifting up his shirt and running to the other room. If they see you laughing, they pick up on that and they try to do more of it because they know it's giving them that attention, and that's bad. That's when it goes bad.
So we don't do the attention and reinforcement of it. So then most likely that scenario is not going to repeat itself, because then it's no, we don't say that, or no, we don't do that, and then they move on to the next thing. And so usually we don't get that laugh more than once or twice, and hopefully. Sometimes it's oh my God, did you just see that, or did you just hear that? And then we have to repeat it back to each other because we don't want to show them the emotion of oh my God, that was amazing, keep doing that or repeat that.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that. And I think I'd love your, kind of closing out here, love your opinion on, for me, with that in mind, one thing I didn't realize about being a parent is how much fun it is. Did you ever think that it'd be this much fun?
No, I didn't. And And yeah, like I said, like there's certain things that happen, and sometimes me and my wife will look at each other and say, you know what, some things might frustrate you. The kids are making a mess, or they got into something, or whatever they did. It's like, oh my god, it's so frustrating. Like I just picked that up, or I just did that. But then like I always try to like think like, okay, their point of view, like this little kid is just trying to help out or do this or whatever. And then I always look at it and like, well, this is like a period of their life that I won't get to experience again. So I'm always like, all right, how can we just like embrace this and be part of the moment and not like negatively be frustrated or mad or whatever the feeling is. And so I'm constantly reminding myself of like, embrace this. We will miss this someday. Be all in, be part of it, be present, all that. So I'm constantly working on that part of it, is like, how can I be there? How can I be present and know and stay positive of, you know what, when they're out of this stage or this age, I'm going to miss that. And I'm going to look back and, think about those times.
Definitely. What a good way to summarize that. And, I just wanted to tell you, man, I appreciate your time so much, and appreciate our friendship and your stories today, and all of the fun stuff, the not so fun stuff. It's just, you epitomize the good side. I just want to thank you for coming on today and sharing with us and being part of the good side.
Yes, and thank you, Danny. I appreciate it.
You bet. So where can people find more about Mr. Tom?
You follow me on any of my handles on social media are at Tom Rauen 24/7 or TomRauen.com.
Awesome. And you guys don't just do T-shirts. You don't just sell to Iowa. You guys can ship just about anything, anywhere in the country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so go to
1-800-T-shirts.
1-800-T-shirts.com if you need
We're
something.
nationwide.
Awesome. Good deal. And he does, also, I don't want to advertise this too much, but Tom specializes, oh my gosh, he's bailed me out of so many different situations where he can figure it out, right? Like, if you need a full-fledged goat costume because you got an event next week, he'll get it there. And I've seen it firsthand. He did that for me, right? So if you need anything at all, Tom's got your back. Go to 1-800-T-shirts.com. Tom, what a pleasure. Appreciate you so much, and thanks for being part of the good side.
Thank you.